My name is Jeremy Ludwig, and I never thought my story would end up here. But my mom said if something this real happens, it's not for us to hide. On November 22nd, 2025, I slipped out of life for only a few minutes. I'm still shaking as I say this. But what I saw changed everything. I met Jesus. I saw light that moved like love itself. And he showed me something about the world's future. And a man everyone talks about, Donald Trump. This isn't about fear. It's about what's coming and why we must stay awake. If you're listening right now, subscribe to this channel. What I'm about to say matters. It was a Saturday, quiet, ordinary, almost boring. Mom was baking cinnamon rolls. Dad was fixing the old porch light. I remember saying, "The sky looks too calm today," and Dad laughed. "That's how peace looks, champ." But around noon, everything shifted. I had joined my cousin for a swim at the lake near our home. The air was still, water like glass. I dove in once, twice, a third time. My foot cramped. I tried to push upward, but the water felt heavier than before, like it wanted to keep me. My cousin shouted, "Jeremy!" His voice sounded miles away. I remember praying under that water. No fancy words, just, "God, I'm scared." And right then, silence. No bubbles, no sound, just stillness. People later said it was only 3 minutes before I was pulled out and rescued, but to me it felt like an hour suspended between breaths. Everything froze. The sunlight fractured into gold particles floating in slow motion. I could see each one. I tried to reach for them, but my hand passed through light itself. That's when I realized time had stopped caring about me. Then came a hum, soft, warm, alive. It filled the water around me like music. I whispered, "Is someone there?" And the hum answered, not in words, but in knowing. That was the last moment I remember being in this world. They said my heart paused. The doctors called it oxygen shock. But what I remember wasn't pain, it was release. One moment I was underwater, and the next I was standing beside it, watching my cousin screaming for help. I could see everything, but nothing could see me. "Am I gone?" I asked out loud, my own voice echoed back softer. "Not gone." Just then, the air shimmered and the scene below dimmed like fading film. A feeling, gentle but absolute, wrapped around me saying, "It's okay, you're safe." That's when I noticed colors I never saw before. They weren't on a spectrum, they were feelings. Peace looked blue, love looked gold, understanding looked clear. I tried to step closer to the shore, but the ground beneath me turned to light. It lifted me slowly, like being carried upward through warm air. Below, paramedics arrived. I heard my mom crying, "Stay with me, baby." And something in me wanted to answer, but a deeper calm whispered, "Let them cry. They'll understand soon." Then, like fog clearing, I was somewhere else entirely. A horizon of endless radiance stretched before me. The light wasn't around me, it was through me. I could feel every heartbeat in the world at once. And in that silence, someone began to walk toward me. When that figure stepped closer, everything around slowed until even thought stopped moving. "Jeremy," a voice said, and I knew it before I saw him. It wasn't thunder. It was familiarity, like every lullaby, every kindness, every prayer I'd ever whispered, all speaking at once. I whispered, "Jesus?" He smiled. Not the kind of smile that ends, the kind that becomes light. I asked, "Am I in heaven?" And he said softly, "You're in between breaths, little one." His robe didn't shine. It shimmered like living water. Behind him, the air pulsed with memory. Moments from my life were playing like waves. I saw myself helping a friend, hugging my dad, arguing with my sister. None of it was judged. It was simply seen. I said, "Well, why me?" He answered, "Because children see truth before the world teaches them to fear it." Then he touched my forehead with light that felt like warmth and electricity together. "There's something you must see," he said. "And when you return, tell them I said hope is not gone." Time cracked open. I saw Earth spinning below, oceans breathing, continents glowing, and then he pointed east toward a nation burning with light and noise, the United States. That's when he said, "Look closely. The year 2026 will test hearts, not politics." But before he explained, he wanted to show me what unity really looks like. Suddenly, everything brightened. The light didn't blind, it welcomed. I wasn't standing anymore. I was inside the light, breathing it. It carried sound, laughter, prayer. Each color moved like language. I said, "Jesus, what is this place?" He said, "This is what the world forgets it already is. Love expressed." I looked down and saw people, millions, each surrounded by faint glows. Some lights pulsed strong, others flickered. He told me, every heart shines according to what it believes about love. As he spoke, I noticed shapes forming within the radiance. Families reuniting, people forgiving each other in silence, children smiling in dreams. I whispered, so heaven watches us? He smiled again. Heaven partners with you. Then the light deepened and new images appeared. Cities, nations, leaders standing on platforms. Their words formed waves of energy that rippled through humanity. Jesus turned to me and said, these ripples decide peace or pain, and one man's ripple will soon shape many. I asked, who? He answered, you'll know when truth speaks louder than noise. Then I saw a single golden thread shoot across the earth, connecting thousands of praying people. It landed in America, then flared toward one bright figure surrounded by storms of both support and opposition. That's when Jesus said, he is being used for a purpose even he does not fully see. In 2026, hearts will divide before they unite. The light pulsed once more and then began to draw me backward. The light drew me inward, but instead of darkness, I entered silence. Not empty silence, alive silence. It had texture, like soft wind carrying every heartbeat I'd ever known. I remember whispering, where am I? And a voice within the quiet answered, where peace begins. I looked around. There was no ceiling, no ground, just a horizon that curved like a thought. Colors breathed, air shimmered. I felt weightless but not lost, like I finally belonged somewhere I didn't know I missed. Then something strange happened. My memories didn't play as pictures, they felt like music. Every laugh with my dad, every prayer before sleep, every tear I'd hidden, all of it became part of the soundscape around me. I said softly, it's so real, but it doesn't hurt. The voice replied, because truth never hurts, it only heals. Then I felt movement behind me, slow, graceful, powerful. I turned and saw outlines of people I'd never met, but somehow recognized. They were watching me, not as strangers, but as family, waiting for someone who finally came home. Their smiles carried something eternal, something like memory, but purer. I asked, are you angels? One of them smiled and said without words, we are what love becomes when it's finished learning. That's when I realized I wasn't floating toward heaven. Heaven was rising to meet me. And through that rising came the presence that would change everything, the one whose silence sounded like the meaning of life itself. Suddenly, the silence rippled into sound. Birds, laughter, a soft breeze that smelled like rain and sunlight mixed together. The stillness unfolded into what looked like a garden, but not like Earth's gardens. Every flower seemed to hum. Every leaf shimmered with light from within. I stepped barefoot on the ground, but it wasn't soil. It felt like warm energy pulsing gently, greeting me as if the ground itself knew I was there. I whispered, is this heaven? The air answered through feeling, it's the space where heaven and earth meet. Ahead, a river ran without water, made entirely of light. Its current whispered melodies I couldn't translate, but somehow understood. Each note felt like forgiveness, patience, and joy all playing together. I leaned closer, and the river showed reflections not of faces, but of souls in prayer. People from every country, every language, all glowing faintly, connected by invisible threads. Then I noticed a figure walking along the riverbank. He wore white that wasn't fabric, it was illumination itself. Every step he took made the flowers open wider. I knew instantly who he was. My whole being whispered, Jesus. He looked at me, not through me, but into me, and I felt every worry, every childhood fear dissolve. He smiled and said, you came curious, didn't you? I nodded, whispering, always. He laughed softly, and it sounded like a sunrise. Then come, Jeremy. There's something you must see. And as he turned toward a glowing path that wound through the garden, the light around us thickened, like the world was preparing to reveal something that had been hidden since time began. Walking beside Jesus felt like walking beside understanding itself. The air seemed to listen to him. Even the light bent closer when he spoke. He said, you were not brought here by mistake. I whispered, was I supposed to go yet? He shook his head, smiling gently. You were supposed to see. Every word he spoke echoed in me like truth rediscovered. He didn't explain things the way people do. He showed them through feeling. When he said peace, I didn't hear it. I became it. I asked, why me? I'm just a kid. He stopped, looked down with kindness that felt infinite, and said, children remind the world what purity sounds like. I show you so you can remind them when you return. I looked ahead, and the path opened into a field of silver mist. Floating shapes shimmered within it. Visions, maybe memories. I saw glimpses of people praying in hospitals, strangers forgiving each other, mothers hugging their children. He said, "Every act of love becomes light here. Every act of cruelty creates shadow. The earth is a canvas painted daily by human hearts." Then his tone shifted, deeper yet calm. "The next years will test hearts, not to destroy them, but to reveal them." The silver mist brightened, and within it I saw outlines of countries, cities, flags, all glowing, pulsing, shifting. He pointed to one brighter than the rest, America. "This one has a purpose that must be remembered," he said, "and a man's journey tied to it. You will hear his name often, but I will show you the truth behind it." And with that, the field dissolved into light once more, opening into something vast, like standing on the edge of history itself. The light around us folded gently, becoming clearer, sharper, more intimate. Suddenly, there was no distance. He was right before me. Jesus' presence didn't feel like standing near someone. It felt like standing inside peace. Every thought I had quieted, every fear evaporated. His eyes carried galaxies of emotion, joy, strength, mercy, all at once. I said quietly, "You really are him." He smiled. "And you really are you. That's enough." Then he reached out his hand, and when I took it, I didn't feel skin. I felt meaning. Instantly, scenes opened around us like layers of light. People building, arguing, praying, searching, nations shimmering like living hearts. He said, "The world is entering a cycle of remembering. Many will talk about power, but few will understand purpose." I asked, "Is it about America?" He nodded in part. "It's about awakening. You will hear the name Trump again soon. People will divide over it. But what I see is not division. It's sifting. Truth separating from noise." He continued, "In 2026, the world will not end. It will turn. The hearts of nations will be weighed by compassion, not crowns." I stood in awe, not afraid. Then he looked directly into me and said, "Tell them this. I'm not choosing sides. I'm choosing souls. What happens next depends not on who leads, but on who listens." His words sank deep like seeds in soil. I wanted to stay there forever, but he smiled again and said, "You'll return soon. But first, I'll show you what unity looks like." And as he raised his hand, a wave of golden light swept outward, revealing something that would change the way I saw humanity forever. The golden wave expanded until it became a globe suspended before us. Every country shimmered like a living heartbeat, pulsing in light and sound. I could hear languages overlapping yet blending into one song. Jesus lifted his hand. Where he touched, storms calmed and cities brightened. He said quietly, "Every nation carries a note in my melody. When fear rules, the music breaks." I watched as some regions dimmed, places filled with noise, argument, pride. But then pockets of brightness reignited where people prayed together. It didn't matter what language, they all sounded like love when seen from here. I whispered, "So, the world isn't ending?" He smiled. "No, it's tuning." Then his gaze turned toward America again. The land glowed bright white and deep blue at once, as if two energies wrestled for harmony. He said, "This one was built to remind the others that freedom is not ownership, it's stewardship." Images shifted. Schools, families, debates, churches, every heart looked like a small lantern, some steady, some trembling. He whispered, "Truth is not a crowd's decision, it's a light discovered in silence." I felt warmth flow through me. Even disagreement looked smaller from this height. Then the vision narrowed onto one man standing in that storm of light, his name echoing softly through millions of prayers. That was when Jesus said, "Watch, because the test is coming again." I saw the outline of a man, familiar from television, but different here. He wasn't giving speeches or pointing fingers. He was quiet, almost confused. Staring at a candle in his hands, the flame flickered wildly. Jesus stood beside me and said, This one carries influence like thunder, yet he wrestles to hear the whisper." I asked, "Will he lead again?" Jesus didn't answer yes or no. He said, "Leadership is not the chair, it's the heart seated in it." The flame in the man's hand steadied for a moment when he prayed, then flared when pride returned. Jesus looked saddened yet hopeful. "He is a mirror," he said. "When the people look at him, they see what they love or fear in themselves." I saw crowds, some cheering, some angry, but from above their emotions looked like identical sparks. Love and hate shared the same energy, only directed differently. 2026, Jesus said softly, will not expose a man, it will expose motives. Then he looked at me with deep calm. Tell them to pray for him, not about him. The nation's healing depends less on his decision than on theirs. The candle in the man's hand became two, one gold, one silver. Jesus said, choice will decide which flame survives. And with that, the vision widened again toward the year that glowed brighter than all others. The globe turned until the number 2026 appeared across the sky like morning light. Beneath it, cities shimmered, some rejoicing, some restless. Jesus said, this year begins an unveiling. I asked, unveiling of what? He answered, of hearts, of intentions, of what people truly trust. Then scenes unfolded fast. Families choosing unity over headlines, neighbors sharing food during storms, young people gathering to pray without cameras. Each act brightened the map. But when arguments, greed, or deception spread, gray shadows stretched. He explained, America will stand not because it is strongest, but because humility becomes its language again. I watched as technology hummed louder, politics spun faster, and yet a quiet undercurrent grew stronger. Simple kindness. Jesus smiled faintly. This is my revolution, he said. No swords, no slogans, just hearts remembering compassion. Then the number 2026 shattered into small rays that flew around the globe. Every nation received a fragment. Do you see? He asked. When one awakens, others feel permission to do the same. I said, so it's not just America's story. He nodded. It's humanity's reminder that love still governs the laws of existence. The vision dimmed slightly, leaving only a heartbeat sound echoing through the light. That pulse, he said, was prayer, and it would decide how 2026 is written. The scene changed again. I saw golden fire sweeping across continents, rising like dawn. It wasn't destruction, it was purification. Everywhere it touched, fear melted, pride dissolved, and hidden kindness reemerged. I said, it looks like the end. He smiled. It's the beginning of clarity. The fire entered buildings, governments, even homes, but nothing physical burned. Only illusions burned. Jealousy, deceit, greed. What remained glowed, transparent, honest. I saw people dropping arguments mid-sentence, realizing they'd been fighting the wrong enemy. Strangers hugged in the middle of the street, old wounds healed with a single apology. Jesus said, my fire is mercy wearing light. Then he turned to me. Tell them not to fear purification. Fear comfort without truth. The fire formed into shapes, words floating above the world. Faith plus forgiveness equals freedom, he continued. Many will mistake this for chaos, but it's alignment. When light returns, shadows must move. I watched as 2026's golden blaze settled over America like sunrise after rain. No one person controlled it. Every sincere heart did. He whispered, this is how nations heal, one awakened conscience at a time. The glow softened, leaving only warmth. Then he looked back at me and said, now you've seen cleansing. Next, you'll see connection. And the world of fire turned suddenly into a web of radiant threads linking millions of souls, ready for what he would reveal next. The golden web stretched wide, sparkling like constellations. Every thread connected a praying soul to another. Some threads pulsed bright, grandmothers whispering blessings, children clasping hands before bed, strangers sending quiet hope for someone they'd never meet. Jesus said, listen, and I did. The sound of prayer wasn't noise, it was harmony. Every thank you, every help me, and every I forgive became music that moved the light itself. I asked, so every prayer matters? He smiled. Every whisper alters eternity. Then he showed me how a single act of compassion, one nurse holding a patient's hand, one teenager forgiving their father, created ripples that brightened entire cities. Wherever people prayed in truth, dark clouds parted. I could literally see light bursting through rooftops. He pointed toward small gatherings, people in parks, homes, quiet churches coming together not to protest, but to unite hearts. This, he said, is the true revolution of 2026. I saw faces of all races and languages kneeling side by side, their differences fading in the glow. He whispered, the earth does not need more opinions. It needs more prayers spoken with love. As he said that, one thread suddenly connected directly to me. I felt the weight of those prayers like millions of hearts breathing together. It was then I understood prayer isn't about asking. It's about aligning. The vision changed again. I saw chaos, news headlines, debates, anger, division. Every argument looked like smoke twisting and feeding confusion. I asked, why does everything seem so divided? Jesus looked at me, calm and patient. Because division is the teacher before unity is learned. He waved his hand and the smoke slowed. Beneath it, I saw faces, tired, scared, searching. Each one carried the same longing to be understood. He said, "Confusion humbles pride. It breaks certainty so truth can enter." Then he showed me something beautiful. Beneath the noise of media and politics, people were quietly helping each other. A man fixing a neighbor's roof, a mother feeding someone else's child, a police officer praying for a stranger. These, he said, are the miracles the headlines miss. The confusion wasn't punishment. It was preparation. When the world stops trusting what divides it, Jesus said, it will rediscover what connects it. He showed me how beneath every argument there was an ache for belonging. And when people finally realized love was the only solution that worked, the noise would begin to crumble. Don't curse the shaking, he said. It reveals what still stands. Then the vision of smoke dissolved again, revealing only light, soft, steady, waiting for recognition. From that light, I saw groups of leaders standing on mountains of glass. Each mountain reflected their hearts, not their words. Some shone bright gold, others cracked and dimmed. Jesus said, every leader builds their throne on what they love most. Some on power, some on people, some on pride. He stepped forward, touching one cracked mountain, and instantly it turned clear again. A humble heart can still guide nations, he said. I saw presidents, teachers, scientists, pastors, every kind of leader, each holding torches. Some flames wavered with doubt, others burned steady. He looked at me and said, the world often mistakes charisma for calling, but I measure leadership by how much light someone shares without expecting applause. He continued, pray for them all, Jeremy, even those who stumble, for the prayers of the unseen sustain the thrones of the unready. Then he spoke something that felt like pure gold. The greatest leaders of this age will not come from politics. They will rise from compassion. I saw doctors, inventors, artists, even quiet mothers. They were the new builders of the age to come. And when he looked back toward America, he said, tell them to bless their leaders, not curse them. Love reshapes what anger cannot. The scene shimmered, one final symbol forming above us, a heart wrapped in light encircling the earth. The vision began to fade. The music of prayers softened into a hum, and the garden of light dimmed like sunset over eternity. I whispered, please don't send me back yet. Jesus smiled sadly but kindly. You've seen what you needed to. Now you must live it. I felt warmth move from my chest to my fingertips, like my soul was gently being lowered into a sleeping body. He placed his hand over my heart and said, remember, revelation is not for fear, but for awakening. The garden dissolved, colors folded inward. The hum turned into the faint beeping of machines. Suddenly, air rushed into my lungs. I gasped so loud that nurses screamed in surprise. My mom cried, he's breathing, and held me as if she'd just found her heartbeat again. I could still feel the warmth of his touch echoing inside me. In those first moments, I couldn't speak much, but one thought repeated in my mind like a promise. Love is louder than any storm. As I looked around the hospital room, everything felt different, brighter, alive. Even the fluorescent light seemed to carry kindness. When my mother asked what happened, I whispered, I met him, and he said, the world is about to wake up. She cried, but not from fear, from recognition, and deep down, I knew the real work was just beginning. When I finally opened my eyes, it felt like waking up from a 1,000-year dream. The world around me was the same, but I wasn't. I could hear the quiet behind every sound, the heartbeat beneath the noise. Mom leaned over me, tears streaking her face. Baby, you're here, she whispered. I smiled weakly. Mom, he talked to me. She froze. Who? I said it softly. Jesus. The room went silent except for the slow, steady beeping of the monitor. I could see confusion and awe in her eyes. He told me things, Mom, about people, about 2026, about Trump. Her hand trembled as she brushed my hair. What did he say? I looked past her toward the window where the evening light turned the glass gold. He said that year won't be an ending. It'll be a beginning. People will stop trusting noise and start listening again. He said, hearts will divide before they heal, but love will win. Mom whispered, that sounds like hope. I nodded. He said hope will look like ordinary people choosing kindness when the world tells them to choose sides. I could feel warmth still pulsing in my chest, the same warmth from his hand. Mom, I said, he doesn't want us to be scared of change. He wants us to be ready for light. She closed her eyes and whispered, then that's what we'll do. That night, even with machines still humming beside me, the room felt holy, like heaven hadn't left completely. The few days since the hospital have been different. I don't see visions anymore, but I feel them. Every sunrise reminds me of his light, and every laugh in our home sounds like music from that garden. Mom started praying out loud again, not like a ritual, like a conversation. Dad stopped rushing through days. We sit together more, talk softer, forgive quicker. It is as if our house has been rewired for peace. One evening, I told them he said something before I came back. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. Mom asked gently, "What was it?" I said, "He told me when hearts learn to listen, nations will learn to see." She wrote it on a note and taped it to the refrigerator. It's still there. The message wasn't about fame, power, or prediction. It was about remembering who we are. Jesus didn't speak of Trump as a symbol of division, but as a reflection, a reminder that humanity's test is never a person. It's always the heart. When I see news or arguments now, I don't feel fear anymore. I pray. I imagine the threads of light reconnecting across the earth, glowing brighter every time someone chooses peace. Sometimes Mom asks, "Do you still hear him?" I smile. Not with my ears, but every time I choose kindness, I feel him close. This story isn't about a miracle, it's about mercy. And maybe if you're listening right now, it's a reminder that heaven is still reaching for earth through people, through love, through every small choice that brings light where there was noise. Because that's what he showed me. The world isn't ending, it's remembering. In the week since I came home, life looks normal, but it doesn't feel normal. Birds seem to sing in slower rhythm, like the air carries messages. Even silence feels alive. At first, I thought maybe my mind was imagining it. But then small things began to happen. One morning, I woke up before dawn and saw a soft golden shimmer on my wall, moving like light underwater. It didn't scare me, it comforted me. I whispered, "You're still here, aren't you?" And a warmth filled my room that felt exactly like his presence. At school, I noticed things differently. When a classmate cried quietly in the corner, I felt his sadness like it was my own. I walked over, sat down, and said nothing, just listened. He looked up at me and whispered, "Thank you." That moment felt bigger than any vision. Mom said, "Maybe you brought a little of heaven back with you." I told her, "No, I think heaven's always been here. We just don't notice." Every night, I close my eyes and ask, "What now?" And in the stillness, I feel a small whisper rise in my heart. Live what you saw. Make earth glow again. It wasn't dramatic, it was gentle, but it was real. Word about my experience began to spread quietly, first through church, then through friends, then across town. People have already started showing up at our door asking questions. A woman came just yesterday holding a photo of her son. She said, "He's lost faith. Can you tell him what you saw?" I told her I saw a world where faith looked like light. It wasn't about rules, it was about remembering. She cried and something shifted in her eyes. Hope returned. Neighbors have even started meeting in our backyard. It's supposed to be every Friday evening, but they're already gathering. It started with 6 people last Friday, but tonight nearly 50 showed up. No one preached. We just listened to each other and to the quiet between us. Sometimes someone says, "I think I feel him here." And everyone nods. I realize now what Jesus meant when he said 2026 would be about listening, not noise. This isn't revival through crowds or headlines, it is revival through presence. Mom calls it the Golden Fridays. As candles flickered last night, I looked at the faces around me, young and old, black and white, rich and poor, and thought, this is what heaven looks like when it breathes through people. And for the first time, I understood his prophecy wasn't about politics. It was about people learning to glow again. Time is moving forward, and something subtle has changed everywhere. You can feel it in conversations, in songs, in the way people are beginning to care again. 2026 isn't here yet, but it is already humming beneath reality, like distant thunder before rain. Mom says, "The air feels charged, doesn't it?" And I nod. It's the tuning. That's what Jesus called it. The earth tuning back to love. I see strangers helping each other in stores, kids praying at lunch, and even online arguments turning into forgiveness. Not everywhere, but enough to notice, enough to believe. Sometimes I catch glimpses of that golden thread I saw with Jesus running through cities, homes, hearts. Every time someone chooses kindness, the thread brightened. Every time someone spreads fear, it dims, but never disappears. I've started keeping a small journal where I write what I feel happening in the world. On the first page, I wrote what Jesus told me. The world will not be divided by belief, but united by awareness. When I asked him what awareness meant, he had said, seeing me in everyone, even those you don't agree with. Now, every time I look at the sky, I whisper, I see you. Mom says the world is waiting for something big in 2026, and maybe she's right. But I think what's really coming isn't fire or fear. It's recognition. The moment when humanity finally remembers that we've never been separated from heaven at all. And when that happens, maybe, just maybe, the whole earth will shine the way I saw it in his hands.